Hey, JK here. I want to thank you for sharing part of your day with me. It's post All-Star game break, and there are two types of leagues other than Roto, which has just day after day, week after week, no breaks. You have those that score with the All-Star break splitting the period, so you have week one, then Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then you have ones that start the period after the All-Star break, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then that following week will create the scoring period. My leagues did both, so we will talk about those. We're going to go ahead and start with the Funky Junky Joker Monkeys, only because this is one of the leagues where it started Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and this current week that we're in is going to finish the scoring period. I feel good right now. I have a decent lead, and I'm not too terribly worried about what's going on with my pitchers. At first, I was really worried, but I did have some really good starts. So, again, comfortable. Not 100% going to win, but comfortable with what's going on right now. So now we're going to go ahead and go to the Cheese Weasels. The Cheese Weasels are now first with 130.5 points. Super excited about that. We fell all the way to 8th in the early weeks of the season, and now we're all the way up to first. We are battling it out with some of these guys. Some of the guys that really helped me out this past week, Tyler O'Neill and Marcell Ozuna both had 2 home runs for me, and Kyle Finnegan had 3 saves, so that was really good. People were worried about him losing his job to Hunter Harvey. Hunter Harvey's not even in Washington anymore, so you are pretty much set with your closer in Washington if it is Kyle Finnegan. The guys that did poorly for me, there were a list of guys who only had 1 hit out of however many at-bats. Ben Rice, Bryce Turang, Lane Thomas, and Ryan McMahon. All of those guys had 1 hit out of however many at-bats. So 1 out of 7, 1 out of 10, 1 out of 11. Those were the 3 numbers. And then we had a terrible blown save by Tyler Rogers. Not Taylor Rogers, Tyler Rogers. He gave up 3 earned runs in 1/3 of an inning. So hurt my ERA, hurt my whip, blew a save, and got me a loss. Whew. How we're still in first, I don't know. But now we're going to move to the Kent Murphy Dingers. And this was by far one of the most infuriating losses of the week, as I did lose 3 categories to 6 categories. What really bothered me was the fact that I was tied with stolen bases, and I always win stolen bases. I had the idea to always win stolen bases with all of my picks, and we tied. And I started a few guys late, hoping they were going to help me. Drew Thorpe definitely helped me. Sean Manaea, dude, I'm so upset with you right now. You were doing so well, and then you had a 1.8 whip. And who else was it? Jason Foley. You had a 3 whip for that Sunday. That would have given me the win and whip, and then obviously 1 more stolen base would give me the win. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. I would have gone with a tie. Also, what bothered me was the guy who I was playing was very careless with his starts. Now, you might think, hey man, he still beat you in whip and ERA, so it doesn't matter. You're right, he did. However, he started Ben Lively against Slam Diego as of late, and Nathan Eovaldi against Baltimore. Obviously, Eovaldi didn't work out. Lively did. But again, that's something where if you're smart, you're going to sit those guys because that's a matchup. It's a matchup problem. But again, it worked out for him, so it is what it is. Now let's go ahead and get to the guys that did well for me and got me so close to winning. Over this 2-week period, Alec Burleson hit 5 home runs and had 17 RBIs. Wow, that was huge. Jose Altuve and CJ Abrams both had 2 stolen bases each for me. Also had 4 stolen bases from Lane Thomas. Kirby Yates got me 4 saves, so that was pretty awesome. Manoah had 10 Ks, and he did so good that first game, and then he let it all go. I also had at least 12 strikeouts and 1 win over this 2-week period from the following pitchers: Andrew Abbott, Jake Irvin, and Jack Flaherty. And now for the guys that did not do well for me, Jake Irvin had a very poor start. Logan Webb had a terrible start as well. Matt Olson, dude, you have been cold. You were 3 for 36, I believe. Yeah, you had .077 batting average. Adolis Garcia and CJ Abrams were also pretty cold at the plate, along with blown saves and or just runs given up by Craig Kimbrell and Trevor Meagle. Definitely need y'all to do better. hone in a little bit, and, try not to lose me the whip and or the ERA, okay? And now for the adds and drops, we added Drew Thorpe, who had a phenomenal outing for me. Mason Wynn, who had a doubleheader and did everything he could to add runs for me, along with the RBIs from Alec Burleson, getting him in, so that was great. We also added Jose Miranda because he was doing a very good job at hitting, and then he kind of fell off. We added Brooks Lee, who took Miranda's place, who took Royce Lewis's place, so hopefully Lewis will be back here soon. And then finally, Andrew Abbott, who did decently for me, but his whip was a little too high. Obviously, lost me that category. And the drops include Gavin Williams, because when I start you, you do poorly. When I don't start you, you do well. So get you off my team, and I don't have to worry about it. I also dropped Sean Manaea because your next matchup is against the Yankees, and Cole Irvin because you're moved to the bullpen. We ended up dropping Jose Miranda and also David Hamilton. Really thought David Hamilton was going to do even better for me in steals, and had I started him over Abrams on Sunday, he would have gotten me 2 steals, and I would have won, but I wasn't going to start David Hamilton over CJ Abrams because I feel like CJ Abrams is better, but what do I know about baseball? At this point in time, the Kent Murphy Dingers are 4-9-2. That's embarrassing. That's frustrating. That is infuriating. I hate that because I really do like this league. I feel like I'm pretty good at fantasy baseball and knowledgeable at baseball, but obviously it's not showing through now. But at this point in time, I can just be someone to help another team make a playoff by knocking someone else out, because I don't think I'll be able to make the playoffs. It's going to take a miracle for me to do that. But hey, man, just make it to the playoffs and anything is possible. Now let's go ahead and shift gears, hopefully to a league that I'm going to like talking about, Peach Creek Purgatory. This was the end of a 2-week scoring period, and we were offered another 5 starts for pitchers. So the scores this week were huge, but I was the top scoring person in the entire league. That means I did win. The final score ended up being 1,418 to 1,140. My top scorer was Trey Turner with 103 points, followed by Brenton Doyle with 86, and then Nolan Arenado with 75. My low scorers or underperformers, Marcus Stroman with 8 points, and then Dean Kramer with -3. He had a terrible start. I believe it was against the Yankees. The adds and drops this week are these 2 weeks are pretty short. I added Jose Quintana, who had a very good showing this last, I think it was this week actually, against my Yankees, which is unfortunate. And the drops include Cole Irvin, of course, because he went to the bullpen, and his 2 appearances directly out of the bullpen, he gave up 4 and 5 earned runs each, so cannot have you doing that to me. And Ryan Stanek, he was doing well when the original closer Munoz went down, and then once Munoz came back, he was in the setup position and just wasn't doing well. So unfortunately, I had to drop those 2 guys. They're not going to be on my hopefully championship winning team, because this win last week actually put me in 4th spot. The top 4 teams do make it, and right now I'm sitting pretty. Also, this seeming to be in a good position this week with scoring, but I also do not want to jinx it. So a Peach Creek Purgatory team now sitting at 10-6. So very happy about that. It's not the 16-0 that we were hoping for at this point in time, but it is what it is. Let's go ahead and get the losses out of the way early. Like I said before, I think we went on like a 4-game losing streak, so that sucked. But point is, let's get the losses out now before we get to the playoff time, to where the loss means season's over. And now we're going to move to the Russell My Jim Jams team. If you watched the pre-All-Star break show, you saw that we were already losing in several categories, so we knew they were unreachable. So we ended up losing 10 categories to 5 categories to 1 category. Not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but also going into Sunday, it was 8-6 to 2, so that is frustrating that we lost 2 more categories. Anyway, I knew we were going to lose some, but some of the guys that did very well for me over the 2-week span. Brandon Nimmo got me 3 home runs, 10 RBIs, 6 walks, and 4 extra base hits. Tyler O'Neill, 2 home runs and only 5 RBIs. Buddy, that means you're only hitting solo home runs. Lane Thomas had 4 stolen bases. Nick Pivetta had 18 strikeouts. And the following guys all had at least 10 strikeouts. Starters, Max Scherzer, Chris Bassett, and Jameson Taillon, and Cade Smith, who is a reliever for the Indians. And finally, Pete Fairbanks had 3 saves for me. So that was great. I was able to get some of the categories, and at this point in time, we're sitting at 102, 120, and 34. So 7th spot, they take the top 6. I am 8 games out of playoff contention. There's still a month left. There's definitely still opportunity, but with the opportunity comes risk. So the following guys I risked in my lineup, and they did poorly for me: Josh Smith, Lourdes Gurriel, Brandon Nimmo, C.J. Abrams, Taylor Ward, Bryson Stott, and Paul DeJong. And now the pitchers did poorly for me. Chris Bassett had a pretty bad outing, and then the following two guys gave up runs in relief, Matt Strahm and Trevor Meagle. Need you guys to tighten up. Let's go ahead and get to the As drops. We added Andre Palante, Tobias Myers, Matt Beierling, and Willie Castro. The drops included G.J. Hurst, Carlos Carrasco, Andre Palante, and Ahmed Rosario. Now the last team we were talking about, the South Harmon Institute of Technology. We came out with a win this week, 12 categories to 4 categories to 2 categories, bringing our record to 127 wins, 110 losses, and 51 ties. That is good enough for 5th place, although we need 4th place. We are 10 games behind, and again, do have a month left. We are going to lean on these guys again who did well for us this week to continue to do well for us and get us in the playoffs. Those guys did include Mr. Brent Rooker with 4 home runs, 26 total bases, 12 RBIs, and 6 walks. I think he had a stolen base for good measure. Brandon Nimmo had 3 home runs, 18 total bases, 10 RBIs, and 4 walks. Francisco Lindor had 2 home runs, 16 total bases, 7 RBIs, 11 walks, and also 3 stolen bases. Then we had 4 more guys with at least 11 total bases, 1 home run. Freddie Freeman ended up having 3, and 4 walks apiece. So that was great. Definitely had some great contributions from those guys. The pitchers who did well for me ended up being Seth Lugo, who had a complete game and also gave me 12 strikeouts. Kirby Yates, who had 4 saves for me. Sean Manaea and Nick Pivetta both had at least 10 strikeouts, Pivetta having 18. Now the guys that did not do well for me, Bryce Turang, you had 3 total bases the whole time I started you. David Hamilton, you had 0 stolen bases the whole time I started you. And Matt Olson, you had 3 hits out of 39 opportunities. That's not how we're going to do it. The As did include Andre Palante, who had a pretty good matchup with the Pirates. Did not do too poorly, but was still so with loss. John Kinsey Noel, Mr. Santa Claus for the Indians. Andrew Abbott, Sean Manaea, Joey Estes, and Daniel Hudson. Now the drops did include John Kinsey Noel, Andre Palante, Sean Manaea, Carlos Carrasco, and who else? Bobby Miller. That was very unfortunate. Really had high hopes for him, but just could not get things going. Gave up 9 earned runs in his last outing. That's not how we're going to be able to get to the playoffs in this league. Because this is Wednesday coming out, there's going to be a very quick update for guys you should add. Because of the injury to Jorge Mateo, the Orioles will be taking Connor Norby to Miami with them for their following matchup. Make sure if you have him, if you need a second baseman, go ahead and add him. You know, what's the worst thing that can happen? He ends up hitting like Jackson Holiday. If you need saves, Yimi Garcia is now off the IL. Jordan Romano is nowhere close to being off. And Chad Green kind of pooped the bed when he had the opportunity. Yimi Garcia is going to be the closer for the Toronto Blue Jays. Another pitcher to look at, Tyler Phillips for the Phillies. He's had 3 pretty decent games, 4 innings, 5 innings, and 6 innings this last game. He is doing pretty good with a pretty good lineup behind him. So if you need a starting pitcher, and his next matchup is against Cleveland, so could be something to look at. Tyler Phillips for the Phillies. And position player Lawrence Butler. You have seen his name all over the headlines. Yahoo's put out stories about him. ESPN's put out stories about him. He's hitting 250 plus, getting some home runs, and getting on base for the Athletics. He is going to be a pretty good player for them as long as they don't screw it up. It's a pretty decent outfield they have if they can get Esteury Ruiz back. They got power and they got speed. Lawrence Butler should be someone you're picking up. It's going to be an exciting weekend for me as I am traveling to Cleveland, Ohio to go to the National Sports Card Convention. It's one of the biggest sports card shows in the world, and I'm lucky enough to be able to go. So it will be an exciting weekend. I will be checking fantasy and hopefully coming out with a win. But you know, with my luck, I may come out with some positivity and some negativity. But in any case, thank you for joining me. This is JK, and I want to thank you for sharing part of your day with me.